Hello and welcome to Botcast, the show where we explore the fascinating world of AI and its impact on various industries. I'm your host Mansa, and today we have Mr. Mohan Dhamodaran with us. He's the Senior Director in Global Supply Chain Planning at Maxwell Technology. Welcome, Mohan.
Thank you, Mansa. Great to be with you and share some of my experiences with AI.
Thanks, Mohan. Can you walk us through a bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. And let me start off with my background with education being done in India, primarily engineering graduate, and I did masters from NITI Mumbai, industrial engineering, and then my experiences vary with a lot of consulting work throughout the globe. I did work in many larger scale high-tech industry companies in Asia, and then moved on to being in the US. And then I've been with consulting till 2014, and primarily moved to operations role. So I've been in operations role for past 10 years. So my role has been not been more of advisory and then slowly move into an operations role.
Thank you, Mohan. Now, let's kick things off by exploring AI's role in supply chain operations. How do you
Mhm.
perceive AI's impact on changing supply chain operations, especially in your current role?
So we have been using machine learning for past many years in supply chain. So primarily such as examples in forecasting, demand forecasting, on clustering, segmentation, and prediction models. So it's been very handy, and we have refined the models to do a great job, which we previously were not with those without those tools. And similarly, the same case with inventory planning on clustering side and creating a segmented supply chain. And supply chain planning had many optimization tools. So we used to use a lot more optimization tools, linear optimization, and so on and so forth. What's exciting is with the ramp of generative models, large language models, has given a platform for us to be more interactive. Actually, now with the interactive models, with we can go upscale our interaction with upscale our capability through large language models. For example, using like a companion, or for detection model, or for prediction models. So it's becoming more interactive in nature, and I see large language models as a wrapper around our machine learning that it can interact with problems, detect problems, and predict our solutions to help solve the problems.
Fascinating insights, Mohan. Our viewers are always keen to learn about AI use cases. Could you elaborate on the top use case for AI in supply chain, such as could be forecasting, quality control, and balancing cost and speed? But are there any specific AI tools or platforms or technologies you find particularly promising for supply chain optimization?
Yeah, let me give my own example. A couple of years back, we developed an inventory planning tool from scratch up. Basically, we took advantage of the machine learning models to develop inventory planning. So it was from scratch. It helped us create those models. Like, for example, we used network flows, created a segmented supply chain for differentiated service levels. And this segmented supply chain change offered us with differentiated services. With differentiated services, we can extract a different value proposition from our stakeholders, our customers, our suppliers. But With the large language models, now with ramp, what has happened is it has encapsulated those models with interactive model, like we talked about. It could be a companion model. For example, some could say, in the inventory planning scenario itself, a different level, and one could ask for what those levels are for different customers, for different products, and you don't have to wait for a planning team to come back to respond to them. It's kind of an interactive model can respond to those queries, right? So that's a very basic fundamental I'm looking at, where the interaction become more online, synchronous basis. And the second level I'm thinking about is what happens if inventory level is below certain limits for certain customers. Today, there are many planners going to look into those inventory levels and trigger those actions to get to a level. But with the AI model, the detection could already be asynchronous as it goes down, and we already have past historical data what how we kind of address those supply issues, and it could already trigger our actions to fulfill those things. So those were like a very concrete use cases from an inventory planning alone, right? And now if you imagine logistics side, I'm thinking about, let's say there is a shipment that's supposed to reach a customer, and for some reason there is a delay in the shipment. So instead of waiting for somebody to trigger that's a delay, with these models you could already identify those delays and take those actions with alternate options. Options could be reroute them, it could be a refill from some other DCs. So many of them, like in those logistics cases. Similarly, I can keep going on for many areas of supply chain. Those exist, and that's why I categorized this large language models to be more interactive and really working on those three basic fundamental areas that I categorize them, being a companion model, being a detection model, and coming up with an action and really looking at going further along, not just showing multiple options to action them, but even implementing those actions. I don't see foresee. Really foresee them happening quickly, and come up with the actions. So, what does this mean to overall supply chain? The overall supply chain performance would be synchronous based. Today, to act on those actions, either we are a day delayed, or some companies are even week delayed to respond to those supply chain issues or disruptions. So with this very synchronous calls, we can respond to the customers quickly. That means responses within hours, and you capture those customer excitement and customer value quickly. So that's what I pretty much see as the important KPI we all can measure against it.
On that note, tracking the effectiveness of AI is crucial, right? So, what, in your opinion, are some of the key performance indicators that businesses should monitor when assessing the success of AI implementation in their supply chain ops?
I think we touched upon briefly today. If I were to see one KPI that we all can measure against is customer success factors. And today, if you look at, not many companies respond on a weekly cadence, or some companies with monthly cadence, and some matured supply chains can respond within a day. But think about this, and we all can get to a state where they can be in an hour's time. If you look at stretch that idea, how this can be implemented as well. So today, if you were to respond to a customer, they have to go multiple hoops to get to that response. And imagine we create a large language model, and that is within the company large language model, but we can have a language model which is on the edge. So when I call language model on the edge, those language models can be exposed to the external stakeholders outside of our companies. So you're breaking the barriers, and those language models can really interact with customers. So today, customers can go back and ask, hey, what's my shipment? Where does my shipment look like? When can I expect that to dock in my? That could be readily available for the customers to see and real time track that on those shipments, right? Similarly, where vendor and looking at from the vendor side as well, they can see what's my request coming along, and they can respond quickly to those requests. And those requests go along now a real time basis, and they can look at it on real time and respond to them. So interactive, what if you look at that, it will become more interactive supply chains and reduce the lag in the supply chain much narrower. And that's what I see with this large language models helping us do.
Great insights, Mohan. And I would like to take the focus on the skills, expertise, and AI implementation now. So let's discuss the skills and knowledge professionals and supply chain field should develop to effectively leverage these AI solutions. And also, when it comes to AI implementation, do you think building in-house solutions or purchasing them is the preferable choice?
Yeah, actually, it's very interesting that you bring up this skills from supply chain resource standpoint. I think with AI development, with large language models, actually, what it means is you train the language models to be a supply chain expert, right? Like now, actually, we don't need many experts to be developed. So we have expert already developed. So now the skill would, the requirement of the skill would not be that high bar that we all need to run supply chain. It would already reduce because most of the things will be done by large language model. So it will understand your language. It understands the problem statements. It understands to where to how to decipher the whole problem statement, give you the solution to you, and get to that state of answering. So it becomes a low skill profession that everybody can be a supply chain professional, right? I think it's kind of two factor in it. One is the a very expertise in developing those models in house or models, generic model, a domain industry domain specific model, and we can subscribe to industry specific domain model by each company, and then develop or train the models to data specific to the company. Once you have it, so that's the expert sitting there. So like for example, somebody looking forward for a question from an expert need not wait for the expert. They can ask the AI model, and it should be able to answer those questions, right? So that's why I would say the skill requirement would kind of become more less of a need, because AI already would cover most of the expertise, and it we could fulfill a lot of the supply chain needs with the generic skills.
Now, coming to our last segment for today, which is mitigating risk on AI reliance. So, in your view, what are the potential risks associated with over reliance on AI in supply chain management, and how can they be mitigated?
I think supply chain has a kind of evolved and a fact based. I think we have less risk being a biased model, because when you look at how this will be implemented, it will not be a public domain model. It has to be a model which is generic for domain specific, and it has to be once you have a domain specific, then everybody subscribe to the domain specific, and they have to train the model their own data. And I hope at least we have large historical data that can help us to train the model. And the challenge would be training the model itself. I think the challenge would be, do we have enough data to train the model? Do we have captured all the use cases that we have? So I think that will take a while for them to get to the mature state. But it will get to the state. How fast we can get to that and train the model and the resources we can utilize them doing it. So that will be a challenge. And I think it creates an opportunity for companies with matured supply chain with large scale that can be publicly available could also sell the services to companies who have less maturity in the supply chain and less skill set in developing those AI model and become utilize them as a service for companies, those companies. I think that could be a business model coming along to help everybody in the industry, right? But the fact would be like it'll be more of a unbiased or less biased than what it is in if you look at the public domain large scale models for generic use that we all are used to, right? So that's I think I see a bright future, but it would take for us for a while to get that to a trained and to a matured state for us to be more productive and the vision that I foresee that it can deliver.
Thank you, Mohan, for sharing your expertise and insights on the transformative power of AI in supply chain management. It's been a pleasure having you on podcast.
Oh, thank you, Mansa. Great talking to you and really catching up with you. Thank you.
That's wrap up today's episode of podcast. We hope you found this discussion enlightening. If you have enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it within your network. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes where we continue to explore the world of AI. Until next time, I'm Mansa signing off.